That urge to run away and break up can be really hard to deal with as a fearful avoidant and as a partner of a fearful avoidant. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here because why you want to run away, understanding why, can really help you stay in a healthy, beautiful relationship with so much potential. So in this video, we are going to dive into that. If you have found a healthy, good relationship where you kind of know that this is good for you, they are kind, they are sweet, they are there for you, and you still have this urge inside of you that you want to break up, you want to run away, it might be so confusing. Why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this? Why am I thinking this? If I'm thinking this and if I'm feeling this, it must be true. Because there's nothing wrong with the relationship, so it must be that I don't love them enough. It must not be right. It must not be the one. All of these thoughts are super logical and not necessarily the truth. This is just what our fear brain does whenever it is just scared of dealing with what is happening in the moment and feels like it can't deal with what is happening in the moment. So what could be happening is the fact that, unlike what you want, relationships are messy. People are messy. We are all messy human beings. And I don't mean messy in the sense that you leave your dishes in the sink. I mean that as a fearful avoidant, you have perfectionistic tendencies. You want everything to be perfect. You want your feelings to be perfect. You want your partner to be perfect, because then it's not messy. And yet, a real relationship will always be messy. They will never be perfect. They will always trigger you. Not all the time, consistently all the time, but you will not find a partner on planet Earth that will not trigger you at all, that will not unintentionally hurt you, that will not do things that make you confused about what you're feeling and what's happening. So having said all that, it is very important that you know that your foundation is very healthy and solid. I mean, if your partner makes you feel confused because they are texting other people and you're not sure if they're in or out the relationship, that is absolutely not what I'm talking about. I am talking about having a very committed, loyal, loving relationship, loving partner, and then kind of wanting them to be so perfect that it's all very neat and you don't have to deal with anything that feels messy. Let's see if I can explain messy even better. I think I had this image that relationships should be perfect. I should feel perfect all the time if it was the right one. And I could not deal with the fact that I would mess up sometimes. I would say the wrong thing. I would hurt my partner unintentionally. And vice versa, deal with them hurting me. Especially since my boyfriend was such a good guy. I thought, well, if he's such a good guy, he has to be like perfect, right? He shouldn't be saying things that hurt me or that bring up these feelings that I don't want to deal with. What I've come to learn is that all relationships are messy. I used to abandon relationships and friendships if we would run into problems. And now I know that's a recipe for always ending up alone, because all relationships are messy. You will always encounter problems and you will always encounter things that trigger you. So working through these problems in a healthy way is a skill you really need to develop in order to be able to heal the fearful avoidant attachment style and to stay in the relationship. Now I know that having problems is completely normal and completely fine, and it's healthy to have them and to work on them. And you can't expect not to have any problems, because a happy marriage, on average, a happy one, has 5 problems you can't solve. So there is no such thing as a mess-free relationship. You will encounter situations that just are not only positive and aren't only happy. But that can be hard if you have this image and you have a hard time dealing with messiness, as a lot of fearful avoidants do. Then also, relationships will bring up a lot of negative emotions and feelings because of trauma. So apart from the fact that relationships are messy for everybody, also securely attached people, if you have trauma, which you probably have if you have the fearful avoidant attachment style, it will trigger that trauma. Just being in a relationship with any other human being will trigger trauma, will trigger negative associations around love, around connection, around intimacy, around emotions, around feelings, around anything. And so that can be very frustrating, because here you are in a relationship, and isn't it supposed to be just amazing? And isn't this what everybody wants? Just a very beautiful, healthy relationship? And yet you're dealing with all these negative feelings and emotions. And that can be almost too much, because it could be that you are going through emotional flashbacks. If you have complex PTSD, one sign or symptom of complex PTSD is emotional flashbacks. So not visual flashbacks where you actually see images necessarily, but emotional flashbacks where you kind of get triggered, and then a flashback from feelings you had when you were a child come rushing back in, and it feels very real, and it feels like it's happening right now. And there is a very high chance, it is very probable, that your relationship is triggering that, your partner is triggering that, without doing anything mean or with ill intent, but just by being in a relationship with you and providing love and connection. There can be so many negative associations around those things that they can trigger that trauma from when you were younger, when you were a child. And so that can be overwhelming for you to relive all that trauma, to have that triggered. And if you aren't aware of emotional flashbacks, if you aren't aware of what's happening, your fear brain is going to say, this feels very unsafe, what I'm feeling right now, because a lot of fearful avoidants haven't learned to process their emotions. So it could very well be that you are flooded with all these emotions and feelings. You have no way of processing them. You have negative associations around having these feelings, and you aren't supposed to have them. And then also it's trauma that is coming up and that you are feeling, which is just, it can be so overwhelming. So sometimes it can be that you, as a fearful avoidant, want to run away or break up just because you can't take it anymore. You can't handle it. You really are kind of flooded and feel like you're drowning, and that is so logical. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It isn't a bad thing. It really does help to understand it and to use this in your healing journey, so that you don't have this overwhelming urge to run away and to leave the relationship. So yeah, that is definitely also a very clear reason why you might want to run away from a relationship that is actually really good. Sometimes the most healthy and most beautiful relationships trigger the most trauma, because being in a relationship that's kind of mimicking your dynamics when you were younger is almost easier, because that's what you were trained for, that's what you know, that is what feels comfortable in a way, even though it also feels horrible. But you are so used to those feelings and that cocktail of hormones and everything that's happening in your body. So being in a healthy relationship can actually trigger the trauma, or bring it up to be healed, because that's how I see it. If you are in a healthy relationship now, where there's actually space and love and understanding, then the wisdom of your body is like, oh, so now we can heal this. Here you go. And it just kind of brings that up. All these feelings, please heal these. And if you're watching this channel, you are already on your healing journey. So knowing that so much trauma is coming up and all these negative emotions can be triggered by your relationship and by your partner, but not because of your partner or your relationship. It's just because of the trauma you have and the associations that you have. It can really help in healing this. Then also, you may have done things, said things, do things that you feel shame and guilt around. A lot of fearful avoidants are volatile and impulsive, and say things and do things that they really don't mean, and then feel very ashamed or guilty about that, but don't really know how to handle those feelings either. So that feels overwhelming. So you either retreat, or you lash out, or you run away. Um, because shame and guilt are some of the hardest feelings to feel. So it could be that you got angry at your partner, you lashed out, you said something mean, and then afterwards you realize the impact of your words, and you feel so ashamed and so guilty, and you feel like you will never get over this together. Your partner will never get over this, and uh, you can really go into a shame spiral where you think, I'm not worthy of my partner. He or she should find somebody else. And that could also be a reason to leave. That is a reason for a lot of fearful avoidants to leave, to actually kind of save the partner or protect the partner. And you might not be completely aware of this, but yeah, it can definitely be a reason. And then a lot of fearful avoidants also have a fantasy relationship. So if you notice yourself having this image of a relationship, of what it should be, or a partner and what it should be, and you find yourself constantly comparing that to the partner you have and the relationship you have, it can be very disappointing and frustrating to see that that perfect relationship, I would never feel this way. My perfect partner would never say this thing to me. And because of that, you kind of reinforce the idea again and again that there is somebody out there on planet Earth that is absolutely perfect for you, and that doesn't make you have to deal with negative emotions and the messiness of being human, and the messiness of relationships, and doesn't make you have to deal with your own behavior and take responsibility for your own behavior and your own fears and your own beliefs and your guilt and shame around your own behavior. So it's very logical that you have this fantasy relationship, but sometimes it could happen that you are so invested in that idea that you think, oh, this relationship is just not good. I'm going to break up so that I can chase that fantasy relationship. So make sure that you are willing to take responsibility for your behavior, because no matter who your partner is, and definitely when they are just kind, loving, good human beings, nobody deserves to be treated in a disrespectful way. And this was, for me, this was such, I had to be so confrontational with myself, and I had a really hard time doing that, because I thought, but I am the one who is struggling so much, so why can't I just, why can't I just say everything that I want to say? Was really, my fear brain was throwing a fit, if that's what you can call it. But it was really hard for me to say, okay, but no matter what, I am going to treat my boyfriend with respect. There is nothing that he can say or do that should justify me being mean towards him, lashing out, blaming him, accusing him, just unhealthy, toxic behavior. And before that, I always justified it by, oh, but he said this, so it's all right. I'm in my right to say this. And then at one point, I just had to say, no, this is just not how that works. There is nothing he should be able to do to make me angry or make that justified. Because if I do that, then I am just mimicking the behavior of my fearful avoidant parent. And that's what I don't want. That's what has caused so much trauma in me. So I have to take responsibility for my behavior. Make sure that you take responsibility for your behavior in this relationship, instead of thinking, I will find a different partner who doesn't elicit this rage in me, because that is not realistic. You are the one that experiences that rage. You are the one that needs to take responsibility for your own behavior and your own feelings and your own thoughts. And if you don't, you will encounter that again in another relationship. So there's no running away from dealing with your own shit. That's kind of a very important thing when you have this fantasy relationship idea. Really be really honest with yourself. Am I taking responsibility for my own behavior? Am I okay with relationships, friendships, human relationships being messy? Can I handle that? Am I dealing with my trauma and my negative emotions and my guilt and my shame? If so, and you still have that feeling that this relationship isn't it and there is somebody who is better suited for you, then completely fine, do it. But what I see so much in Fearful Avoidance is that they have this fantasy relationship, they are not willing to take responsibility, which is it. I mean, I get it, it's not that you're a bad person if you don't, but it just doesn't work because you take all of that behavior into the next relationship and you're in the same boat, because there's nobody that's going to be perfect. Never, ever. Um, so it's very important for you to be honest with yourself about all these things. Uh, and that can really help also in that urge to run away off to a fantasy land where you don't have to deal with all of this. I know it sucks to have to deal with this, but you can do that. You are so much stronger than you think. Um, and it will make you grow as a person to heights you cannot even imagine. And that is just a matter of time because you are watching this video and you are on this channel. So you are committed to your healing journey, which is very commendable. And I wish you the freedom that that is going to give you and the experience of actual true love that that is going to give you. That is what I wish for you. I hope this was valuable. I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.
Healed and Happy is a tailor made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style.